What is up, everybody? Yes, Lebanon is being conquered, and we go on in the war. It all continues. World War III is not ending anytime soon, as we can see. So, without further ado, let's get into the news. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. Be sure to support the show. Be sure to visit goldsharkmedia.com if you want to grow your business. And at the end of the day, there's pretty much nothing else to say, so let's get right into the information. Pakistan has made some big moves today. So if we're talking about this Iran war and if we're really tracking everything properly, we know that the U.S. Special Forces have recently conducted a successful operation really in southwest Iran. What they described to be recovering a downed pilot. I believe that this was more of an operation to extract uranium, and I don't think it was successful. But, ultimately, President Trump had celebrated that to be a success. The Strait of Hormuz, however, it opened, there was a ceasefire, and then Israel violated it and bombed Lebanon. And so now the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. Thank you to Israel. Israel is the cause of this entire war. Israel is, again, just like they did in the 12-day war before, they are essentially violating every bit of the ceasefire. And so we have all of this information, and really the Israelis are just not backing down. They are going to continue in their Greater Israel project. No matter what needs to be done, they're going to do it. And so they're taking northern Lebanon, and they are dropping white phosphorus bombs over the skies of Lebanon. They're bombing Christian villages. And again, imagine that being your Christian village. Imagine if that was where you lived, right? Imagine if that was your homeland, right? U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, innocent Americans being harmed and killed by illegal aliens are the predictable outcome of reckless sanctuary policies. Yeah, absolutely. So, again, what do you guys think about all the news happening? What do you guys think about Iran having their 15-point plan? And then next thing you know, the Strait of Hormuz was open and then closed again thanks to Iran. And mainly because of this incident right here that we're seeing on the screen. Apocalyptic scenes in Lebanon's capital right now. Israel has conducted operations, and again, they pretty much, they just ruthless, absolutely ruthless. And they launched 100 airstrikes on Lebanon in 10 minutes, striking South Lebanon, Beirut, and the Bekaa Valley simultaneously. Isn't a ceasefire, it's a mass bombardment of a civilian area. A lot of casualties. I believe there was over 100 different injuries, and then there was 87 that were killed or something last time I looked. And we're going to look through all these stories. We're going to analyze the news in the Twitter X algorithm, but this is really everything that's happening today. Our featured story comes from the Associated Press and really covering this exact movement that Israel is taking and executing on Lebanon. And so ceasefire is threatened as Israel expands Lebanon strikes and Iran closes the strait again. So we had a deal. Israel was willing to work with the United States and to get this war wrapped up. And then Israel said, nope, we want to keep fighting, and we're going to keep bombing innocent Christian villages, and then we're going to play the victim. So Tehran, a ceasefire deal to pause the war in Iran appeared to hang by a thread Wednesday after the Islamic Republic closed the Strait of Hormuz again in response to Israeli attacks in Lebanon. The White House demanded that the channel be reopened and sought to keep peace on track. The U.S. and Iran both claimed victory after reaching the agreement, and world leaders expressed relief, even as more drones and missiles hit Iran and Gulf Arab countries. At the same time, Israel intensified its attacks on Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon, hitting commercial and residential areas in Beirut. At least 182 people were killed on Wednesday in the deadliest day of the fighting there. The fresh violence threatened to scuttle what the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance called a fragile deal. Parliament Speaker accuses U.S. of breaking Iran's conditions. The Iran Parliament Speaker said planned talks were unreasonable because Washington broke 3 of Tehran's 10 conditions for an end to the fighting. In a social media post, Mohammed Bagar Galibaf objected to Israeli attacks on Hezbollah, an alleged drone incursion into Iranian airspace after the ceasefire went into effect, and U.S. refusal to accept any Iranian enrichment capabilities in final agreement. And the Iranian Foreign Minister, Abbas Arghachi, can never get these Muslim names right, oh my God, insisted that an end to the war in Lebanon was part of the ceasefire deal with U.S. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump said the truce did not cover Lebanon. Yeah, so that's an easy out for the United States to not step in and to defend the Christians that are being completely slaughtered and genocided there, just like we saw in Gaza. It's all happening again. And this is all for the Greater Israel Project, and Donald Trump is all for it. That's what's happening. Donald Trump says, yes, we want the Greater Israel Project. I'm in the Epstein files. I don't want those getting out. I can't have those getting out as the president. So we're going to let Israel destroy the entire Middle East. They're going to run everything. And in exchange, I'm not going to go to prison for being in the Epstein files. That's the thinking of Trump, in my opinion. And because how else does any of this make sense? The world sees the massacres in Lebanon, Argacci said in a post on X. The ball's in the U.S. court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitments. Lebanon's health ministry said Israeli strikes killed 182 people on Wednesday, the highest single-day death toll in Israel-Hezbollah war. And I'm sure that the Jews in Israel are just absolutely celebrating this. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt said the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, reported in the Iranian state media, was completely unacceptable. She repeated Trump's expectation and demand that the channel be reopened. These people are absolutely insane, and they're foolish. They're absolutely foolish. U.S. Department Secretary Pete Hegseth said American and Israeli forces had achieved a capital V military victory, and the Iranian military no longer posed a significant threat to the U.S. forces or the region. The Iranian military said the country forced Israel and the U.S. to accept its proposed conditions and surrender. Much about the agreement was unclear as the sides presented vastly different visions of the terms. Iran said the deal would allow it to formalize a new practice of charging ships passing through the strait, a crucial transit lane for oil. The White House said Trump is opposed to tolls for ship passage through the strait. Only 11 vessels moved through the strait on Wednesday, roughly the same as in prior days, according to Windward, a maritime intelligence firm. Iran was requiring shippers to pay tolls of up to $1 a barrel for outbound oil, it said. The largest supertankers carry up to 3 million barrels of crude. The fate of Iran's missile and nuclear programs, the elimination of which were major objectives for the U.S. and Iran in going to war, also remained unclear. Trump said the U.S. would work with Iran to remove buried enriched uranium, though Iran did not confirm that. So, what does this really mean? White House looks ahead to peace talks. Trump initially said Iran proposed a workable plan that could help end the war with the U.S. and Israel launched on February 28th. But when a version in Farsi emerged indicating Iran would be allowed to continue enriching uranium, key to building a nuclear weapon, Trump called it fraudulent. A new 15-point plan Iran presented Tuesday could now align with our own proposal for peace, Levitt said. The White House said Vance would lead American negotiators at upcoming peace talks in Pakistan, which could begin in Islamabad as soon as Friday. Iran's demands for ending the war include a withdrawal of U.S. combat forces from the region, the lifting of sanctions, and the release of its frozen assets. Meanwhile, Israeli Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Ayol Zamir said Israel will continue to utilize every operational opportunity to strike Hezbollah. The Israeli military said it struck more than 1,100 targets within 10 minutes Wednesday across Lebanon, the largest wave of strikes since March 1st. So, again, we see Israel is completely sabotaging the entire peace plans, and Trump is just going along with it for whatever reason. He has no ability to stand up against Netanyahu, whether this is for purposes of blackmail, whether Trump is fully in on the Mossad's operation of the Greater Israel Project. We don't know, but it appears clear that he is not America first. Hezbollah has not confirmed it will abide by the ceasefire, though the group has said it was open to giving mediators a chance to secure an agreement. An official speaking on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to commit publicly said the group would not stop firing at Israel unless Israel agreed to do the same. So when we look at all of these other stories, we also have Trump basically going at the Catholic Church now. Catholic Church says, hey, Trump, you need to, resort to peace. We can't have any of this craziness anymore. And Trump says, okay, well, screw that. We're going to just, do what we did in the past, and we're going to target you for it, Catholics. And so it's really weird, the behavior that we're seeing from Trump. Again, we're not going to read this whole article, but this was also from the Associated Press. What does the Iran ceasefire deal mean? It depends on which side you talk to. And again, really, we'll just look at the bullet points here. And if you look at really what it means to me. It means that whoever gets the Strait of Hormuz obviously controls the Middle East. And we already had it, though. We already had the Strait of Hormuz to begin with, right? We already had it to begin with. And now we don't. Now we're in a position where we have to take it back. We have to reclaim the Strait of Hormuz. We have to reclaim all of these things. We have to go through this entire process of basically getting this entire Strait of Hormuz all over again. So not really a great thing for the U.S. Again, this was a post from Donald Trump about 6 hours ago. Numerous agreements, lists, and letters are being sent out by people that have absolutely nothing to do with the USA/Iran negotiation. In many cases, they are totally fraudsters, charlatans, and worse. They will be rapidly exposed after our federal investigation is completed. There is only one group of meaningful points that are acceptable to the United States, and we will be discussing them behind closed doors during these negotiations. These are the points that are the basis on which we agreed to the ceasefire. It is something that is reasonable and can easily be dispensed with. It's very much like fake news CNN last night, heading a source that had no power or authority to write a letter claiming great authority. President Donald J. Trump. And again, that was posted at 12:04 p.m. today, April 8th, really talking about this entire negotiation that's going to be taking place with Iran. And then right after that, at about 12:20, not so long after that Truth Social post, Donald Trump tweeted, or Truth Socialed, truthed, whatever you're supposed to say, Marjorie Taylor Brown's green turns to brown under stress. Seat in Congress has been taken over by a wonderful and talented man, Clay Fuller, who won convincingly and right from the beginning, despite many people running for that Trump plus 37 seat, and despite the stench left by Green. Congratulations to Clay Fuller, a very large improvement over this deranged predecessor, President Donald J. Trump. Wow. So Trump is still going after Marjorie Taylor Greene, and why do you think that is? Well, it's because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and these people have been trying to expose the Epstein files, and Trump ain't happy about it. It implicates Trump. And once those Epstein files get out, basically we learned that all of this entire Iran war happened because of one man, Jeffrey Epstein, and his influence over our entire government, essentially. So it's really crazy to just see everything that's happening and just see how much little power our politicians appear to have over this entire situation. So again, the historic night has begun now. The missiles will rain down without stopping on Tel Aviv. Feast your eyes. This was only posted at 1:52 p.m. today. So again, just because Iran and Hezbollah has been taking hits in Lebanon doesn't mean that Israel's not taking hits as well. Israel's taking a lot of hits from Iran consistently over Tel Aviv. But as all of this is happening, it appears to be a diversion or a distraction, because Israel is really focusing a lot of their attention, and their IDF soldiers are on the fronts of Lebanon right now. And according to the stories, it appears that Lebanon appears to be getting taken over. So when we look at all of this entire incident where Israel is essentially breaking the ceasefire, this reminds me of what exactly happened in the 12-day war not too long ago, where Israel, again, right when there was negotiations being made between the United States and Iran, Israel stepped in the way of them and basically stopped the peace negotiations, and they killed the negotiators. And that is what Israel does. And then we're all supposed to just accept it, and nobody's supposed to be in trouble for it or be held accountable for it. But me personally, I think there needs to be accountable. People need to be held accountable for it, and there needs to be serious ramifications. This was the last time this happened. This was a few months ago. This was during the 12-day war in the first war.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before.
Yeah, and again, this was during the 12-day war. This was last time.
You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you
Literally happened this time, all over again.
I'm not happy with Iran either, but I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah. And so we see today, again, that entire operation when it comes to Israel, they're just not going to abide by it. And, you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel made that very clear today. He put out a statement and he said, nope, we aren't ending this war, and we're going to keep on going. We haven't reached our objectives yet, and we're going to continue this entire war. It doesn't stop now. We just keep going harder. So when we look at all of these different stories, we kind of see what's actually going on, right? So we go to the bookmarks here, and let's look at some of the breaking news that we saved for really what's happening in the markets and or not the markets, what's happening in the news. Elon Musk said the U.S. government deleted a terabyte of financial data to cover their crimes, but they don't understand the technology, so we recovered it. That's funny. Elon Musk and Doge is still operating in the shadows. Pakistan defense minister attacks Israel. Defense minister Mr. Kawaha Asif. Israel needs to be muzzled at this moment. The position Pakistan has attained will put to use to address Israel's aggression.
उसको लगामे डालने की इस वक्त ज़रूरत है। फ़लस्तीनियों का जेनोसाइड जो उन्होंने कमिट किया, जो नस्लकुशी किया पिछले 2.5-3 साल के अंदर, वो इंसानी तारीख का एक तारीख बाब है, तारीख तरीन बाब है।
He's not the only one who said something either. Breaking, the FBI has arrested a former U.S. Special Operations Command employee who was leaking classified information to the press, per FBI Director Cash. Great, no mercy to traitors. Now arrest the one who leaked F-15 rescue info to Israeli media. Yeah, you know what? It's like, how about we go after Senator Mike Huckabee for the information he has given Jonathan Pollard, who is an Israeli Mossad spy, and gave nuclear secrets to the Israeli government that belong to the United States. How about we go after the Israelis who are stealing all of our information? Huh? How about we go after Howard Lutnick, who, appears to have a lot of insider training, or a lot of insider trading, or at the very least, some pretty good skills in investing. Seems to know a lot about all of these events that are happening. He seems to be making all the money on the tariff buybacks, but he doesn't get in trouble. What's up with that? And that's just what I'm saying. The double standards are crazy. And you got the Nick Sortors, and you have all of these people who are just riding Trump's, ass. And it's like, listen, why are we defending Kash Patel in the FBI today when the FBI is completely corrupt? Kash Patel, he's been hacked by the Iranian government because he can't even, as the FBI director, doesn't know how to keep his own software secure, and obviously doesn't know how to use common sense. So this is who we're really listening to. Breaking, President Trump is considering pushing the NATO countries, which were unhelpful to the U.S. during the Iran operation, per Wall Street Journal. Trump would move U.S. troops out of those particular NATO countries and station them in countries that supported the U.S. No-brainer. And then he should totally withdraw from NATO. What do you guys think? Throw on this.
One missile went 2,500 miles. They supposedly didn't have a missile like that. They had no missile with that capability. But they shot the now famous Ireland, the island that the UK was very afraid to give us because they didn't want to get dragged in. But we don't want to get dragged into their wars either. It's one thing we're very disappointed, I'll say it publicly, we're very disappointed with NATO because NATO has done absolutely nothing. And I've always said, 25 years ago, I was somebody that wasn't a politician, but I was always involved in politics and I understood politics. I said 25 years ago that NATO's a paper tiger, but more importantly, that we'll come to their rescue, but they will never come to ours.
Yeah, but this isn't their war. Why would they want to fight this war? This war doesn't benefit them, and it's a war of complete aggression. The United States and Israel were the aggressors in this war. We are not the victims in this war. This is absolute shame. Journalist, Israel has attacked Lebanon, which killed 300 civilians. Your response? J.D. Vance says, Israel wants to check if our negotiation is successful. What? Like, literally, this is why Vance will not become president. This is why the Republicans are going to lose in 2028. This is why there's going to be a revolution, and this is why the Purge movies are going to become a real-life documentary. Because these politicians should be living in fear for this stuff, because these are innocent people in Lebanon that are being completely annihilated, just like in Gaza. And it's like we have to have some kind of humanity for our fellow man. And it's like when you have J.D. Vance, who is a never-Trumper, he's deep state, he's married to an Indian, and again, think about that. It's not like that's a problem, but when it is a problem, because what if they were to ban birthright citizenship in the United States? His wife wouldn't be a citizen anymore. And so you have this same individual who is just standing behind Trump, doing whatever he says, not condemning Israel at all. No balls. These are total cowards. These are not leaders. And these are terrible role models for what politicians and statements should be. Absolute pathetic excuse of a man and a politician. And especially a vice president.
The Israelis, as I understand it, again, I'm supposed to get a fuller report when I get on the plane, have actually offered to be, frankly, to check themselves a little bit in Lebanon because they want to make sure that our negotiation is successful. That's not because that is part of the ceasefire. I think that's the Israelis
lie.
trying to set us up for success, and we'll of course.
This guy's such a piece of crap. Honestly, though, what is the matter with these people? We need to have a revolution in this country. And it's going to happen eventually. Eventually, it's going to happen. There's going to be some kind of revolution against this kind of stuff because this is just unacceptable, And I mean, I'm not somebody who believes in accelerationism or violence or anything like that. But this is crazy. This is crazy to allow your politicians to behave in such a manner where the innocent are just. I mean, again, what if this was your hometown and you're seeing homes just getting bombed and and people just dying all around you, your neighbors that you grew up with your entire life, craters being shot into the ground from the iron rods of missiles coming from the sky. And it all comes from Israel. Think about that. Your neighbor, that'd be like Canada dropping just like, thousands of missiles all over the United States on Christian villages. Imagine that. All of your villages all at once, massive just explosions of dynamite, TNT, all of it. And now imagine that those are a bunch of innocent people, grocery stores. Imagine that those are schools. And then when you think about that, you start realizing what a problem it is that, it's not okay that Israel, they keep saying that, oh, we're attacking Hezbollah, so it's okay. Oh, we're fighting Hezbollah. Well, what's up with the Christian villages that are being bombed? What's up with all of the innocent people that we're seeing die? So Israel needs to be absolutely muzzled. And Israel needs to be completely controlled, and Iran should attack their desalination plants. And honestly, they should do to Israel what Israel did to Gaza and what Israel is doing to Lebanon right now. There needs to be an eye for an eye. And, they should be begging for water. These Israelis should be begging for water the same way that the Gazans had to beg the same way that these people in Gaza, innocent people, Christians, had to beg for water. I want to see these Israelis doing it. I want to see their children go and fight and die in this war. Yeah. It's not really cool that, they don't want to go and fight and die in this war. They don't want to fight alongside the U.S. troops at all. They won't even let the U.S. troops inside of Israeli bunkers. Isn't that disgusting? And it's like, you're going to go and fight and die in this war? What happens when you get drafted? I'll tell you what's going to happen if I got drafted. Well, if I got drafted, it's going to be a war. I'm not going. I'm not going to go fight for Israel, and I'm not going to die for Israel. Israel should go and fight and die for themselves. And quite honestly, if they have a problem with that, well, then bring the war to the United States, and we'll teach you just exactly how small you really are, Israel. And don't forget that we put you on the world stage, that the United States is the reason you have any kind of relevancy, and that our president is the only reason that you ever were essentially able to ascend the way you are now. And all of that's going away. The next generation's not going to accept it anymore. The next generations that are coming up, they see your lies. They see what's going on. They know about the Mossad. They know all about the blood libels. They know all about Gaza. They know about the white phosphorus bombs that you're dropping over Lebanon. And they know about the genocide that you are committing on the entire United States. They know about the dancing Israelis. They know all about all of this. And so if you think you're going to control the United States into submission, you better think again, because I think the American people would be more than happy to side with Iran, again, in fighting you, Israel. So you better think twice. And if you're an Israeli watching this, you better think twice about who you're coming after. And remember who put you on the world stage. Remember that it was the United States of America who allowed Israel to exist to begin with, 1967. So don't think for a second that you have any more power than the United States. You're cocky. You're arrogant. You're playing games that you shouldn't be playing. And you like to throw low blows. And you exploit the innocent for their goodness. And so we will exploit you for every lie that you have told. And so if it's a war you want, it's a war you'll get. And you will lose, as you already are. May God allow the true victor to win. And I don't think Hashem or Christ, especially the true God, the only God, will be aligning with the Jewish people anytime soon. So you better keep enjoying those sirens and those air raids, because I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. And I think the entire rest of the world might be just joining in with Iran. And again, might just be the best thing for the entire world. Unbelievable what Israel has been allowed to get away with. And they should be held accountable. And anybody who isn't saying that is a coward. And they, too, should be thrown out of this country just as much as any of these Israeli dual citizens. Okay, so that's my rant. Sneeko goes nuclear on stream. I'm not going to read it, but we're going to let him say it. And again, he's been having some pretty interesting takes. What do you guys think about Sneeko? Do you watch Sneeko? I like a lot of the stuff he's been saying. I think he's been pretty on point. Him and Nick Fuentes have some pretty good ideas. So let's listen to what he has to say here.
Can these niggas, like, they are nuking the world? You got a genocide. You're going into Lebanon. You got our country. We can't even get a motherfucking concert. Do these niggas ever just let up? Holy fuck, man. Is it ever enough for these niggas, bro? Like, damn. Can we do anything?
No.
We can't even listen to some fucking music while you nuke the fucking world? I can't go to a concert. And it's insulting what they do. I saw Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. He's there smiling, holding up a thing. Yeah, I just banned Sharia law in Florida. Nobody in Florida was trying to push Sharia law, Ron DeSantis. Your state is the only.
I don't know about that. See, Sneeko's wrong about one thing. You know, Sneeko is wrong that the Muslims are not coming in. Like, listen. Sneeko should understand that the Muslims are absolutely coming into these Western civilization countries, and they're taking over. They're praying in front of Christian churches. They're praying in the streets, blocking traffic, and it's absolutely obnoxious. And that's my only big problem with it. You know, I would love nothing more than to unite with the Muslims against the apartheid state of Israel for what they're doing, and for our, you know, for our religions, our races to come together. But it's like, we can't do that when, like, Christians aren't out there praying in Muslim countries on the streets, blocking traffic. It's absolutely obnoxious. That is like the behavior of invaders. And so that's my issue with the Muslims and what I've been seeing there. And then, of course, with, you know, we see the war happening in the UK right now. We see it. We see the machetes in the streets. We see the rapes happening. We see all of this. So this is a multi-domain war. And I hate to say this, again, I would like to see the Muslims change some of these things. You know, you want to come and live in the United States legally and lawfully, well, then by all means. But it's like, you're going to come over here and try to change our country and the way that we are as a country. I do see that happening. And so Sneeko says that they're not even trying to change the country. And well, it's like, that's not true. You know, you see it in Epic City, Texas. Yeah, they are trying to change the country. They're having a Muslim-only community, and it's like white people can't even do that. So it's like, that is a real problem. And then again, in New York City, you have, Muslims praying, doing the call to prayer, 5 a.m. in the morning. And that's not a problem, I guess. But it's like 5 a.m. in the morning. Americans don't want to hear that at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I'm sure that they know that, these Muslims. And then at the same time, they're, again, praying, doing their call to prayer in front of a church, a Christian church or a Catholic church, deliberately to cause some kind of upheaval and to cause chaos. And it's really disgusting. It's disgusting behavior. It's third worldist behavior. And there's something really wrong about that. Now, on the flip side, I agree with everything Sneeko's saying, that we do need to have some kind of unification against the, you know, the Jewish oligarchy in the United States. That's a real problem. And that is a real thing. That is a real thing. That's a fact. Absolutely. You know, you really look at all of our congressmen and our, you know, they all have to visit the Wailing Wall. You look at all of these things that we've seen, JFK and the story, and, you know, why did they kill him? Well, he said, you know, Israel shouldn't have a nuclear program, and they didn't like that too much. And that's the, you know, JFK was assassinated by an Israeli, according to the files, according to the CIA JFK files. Again, says CIA in tandem with the Israeli intelligence services. So, with that being said, I mean, like, I see what Sneeko's saying, but there is a real problem with Muslims, coming over here, and they are trying to, you know, subvert Christianity and do all of these things to our religion. I do see that happening. So those are the changes that need to be made for sure.
Capital of
But overall, Sneeko's pretty right.
fucking world. Owned by Israelis. No one's pushing Sharia law. Are you fucking stupid? Anybody? Yeah, good job, Ron. It's so clearly...
Definitely not as much in Florida, but they are pushing that in Texas. Again, they are pushing that in New York City. So that is a real thing. And then again, you have Muslims they just so happen to have 8 to 12 kids. And that's not a bad thing. But, you know, in a time where economically, you know, white people are being, like, specifically via legislation, they're being, you know, stripped from being able to actually own a home. You know, it's not really okay. Not good at all.
Propaganda used during the war to read.
But again, overall, Sneeko is pretty much right about a lot of that. There, a lot of propaganda, a lot of anti-Muslim propaganda, when really, you know, the real enemies to all of this, and the reason that all of these, you know, violent Muslims, not all Muslims are violent, but the reason a lot of them come over to the United States or the UK is because Israel is bombing their countries, and now these countries have to flee their countries and they have to come here. To the United States or to the UK or to Germany or to Ireland. That's where Trump sent them all. So it's like you look at that and it's like, well, of course they're going to be mad. Of course they're going to be retaliating when you actually think about it. And so, you know, why are they targeting Christians and Jews though? Or why are Muslims attacking the Christians versus the Jews? And that's another problem I have. I see a lot of Muslims who are attacking the Christians, and I can understand if you're attacking the Christian Zionists. But to attack like Catholics and the Catholic doctrines versus, you know, Judaism, which is, again, the Jews believe Gog and Magog is what the Jews call it. It is a war of the Christians versus the Muslims, and it would usher in the Jewish Messiah. And so the Jews they want this war to happen between Muslims and Christians, essentially so the Jews can control the future of trade between Muslims and Christians and the nations. And so keeping Muslims and Christians fighting at war with one another, of course, leaves the entire world to not fight against the Jews who are actually causing all of these different wars. And so that's really the issue here. There needs to be a unification of Muslims and Christians to fight and combat against the common enemy, which is the apartheid state of Israel, which is a rogue state, which is an anti-Christian state, which is an anti-peace state at this point. This is a terrorist entity, the state of Israel. It can't be more important to make this extremely known, because it is. And I say this as somebody with a criminology degree, you know, learning and studying these people and studying these kind of, you know, systems. And then obviously being a police officer and really, you know, analyzing these kind of individuals. Yeah, this is absolutely this is a terrorist state, the state of Israel. So everything Sneeko's saying is right. Israel is controlling our speech now, and basically under the guise of anti-Semitism, anything you say or criticizing the state of Israel, they just say, oh, well, that's anti-Semitic. And so, you know, everything he's saying about that is completely true. They're crushing our country and destroying our country, our freedoms, our Bill of Rights, our Constitution, specifically and intentfully, and then setting all of the different races against each other, blacks versus whites, and then, you know, whites versus Christians, and really everybody versus the Christians. Really, that's ultimately the goal.
Direct the hatred towards Muslims and away from Israel. It's just like, it's insulting that they do it, and it's so plainly obvious. Finally, you got to go see a concert. Yay. Can't tell me nothing. Ye's up there. He's back. This is the greatest living artist, man. Look at the stage design. It's great. Oh, look, he's back. He's done canceled. He apologized. He's healing. Pepsi withdraws. Then the CEO says, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, you can perform. I believe it's free speech. I'm a Jewish Zionist, too. I'm a settler. I support genocide. But I still want this goyim to perform. I want some ticket sales. The Jewish rabbis say, nope. And then Keir Starmer kicks him out. He says, you can't even come into the country. And then he's shaking hands with like an Al-Qaeda leader. Right. And then he posts another apology. And the rabbis are like, yeah, well, we want to meet with you and accept your apology again, but we don't want you to perform. It's just like, bro, it's never enough, bro.
Never.
It's never enough.
That's why you never apologize. I mean, it's rule number 1 in PR. You just never apologize. You never apologize. Even when you're wrong, you just cannot do it because you're going to get eaten alive.
And the frustrating thing sometimes is when people are like, oh, you're like obsessed with Jews. You're like obsessed with this stuff. You can't avoid it.
You should be obsessed with this issue. Everybody should be obsessed with the Zionist issue right now if you care about, you know, your country. We are at a place where people need to like step out of their workplace and actually focus on these subjects because, yeah, you are losing your country. You are losing your rights. And again, I say that as a cop. Okay, I don't need to be doing this YouTube channel. I do this YouTube channel because I think it's rather important. I think I like talking about these issues because you're not supposed to talk about them. I talk about these stories and I cover these kind of creators and artists because you're not supposed to. Because the remedy to bad speech is more speech, better speech, correct speech. And so the freedom of speech requires you to use that right or you will lose that right. And so that's one of the most important things you have to remember. Developing an American woman has gone viral for sharing her frustration over skyrocketing home prices in her area, claiming that even the most basic homes are $500,000 and up to $1 million, making home ownership feel impossible. She explained in her statement that despite searching for affordable options, there is nothing available under $500K in her region. An American woman, I cannot fathom ever owning a home. I cannot fathom ever not living in a, and then, yeah, so it goes on. So let's take a look.
Why? I'm going to say something that may piss some of y'all off.
She's not the only one who feels this way. A lot of people do.
Why is every home...
Let me tell you, as a real estate agent, I had to play this video because this is absolutely the way a lot of people are indeed feeling. A lot of people.
$1 million. Or if it's not $1 million, it's $500,000. Why? I'm so sorry. I hate to break it to some of y'all, but some of these homes are not worth $500,000 to $1 million. They're basic homes with a roof and walls and a little backyard. And here's the thing. I'm not looking for much. You know, I'm looking for a driveway, a backyard, some land would be nice. I love a garden. But right now, I cannot fathom ever owning a home. I cannot fathom ever not living in an apartment. I became an adult in 2020, and honestly, it feels like one of the worst timelines to ever be dropped into this shit because everything is so expensive, and I hate that word.
A lot of people are feeling that way. I have a lot of clients that I'm talking to, especially the younger generation. They feel like they're being completely priced out of the markets.
But everything is so expensive. My car, it used to take $25 to fill it up. I drive a 2015 Honda Fit. And now it takes nearly $45 to $50. And listen, I understand the state of the economy is down the shitter right now, if it's ever been. But something's got to give. And it's either going to be the economy.
Eventually it will.
Or some of y'all. Or it's going to be me. Because right now, I want off this rock.
Yep. I mean, honestly, you know, you never know. A lot of people are just bad with money too. Yeah, obviously you have to consider those things. But at the same time, and you know, this is not just one person. You're seeing this all the time. I'm covering these stories all the time. People are struggling. Young people especially are struggling to buy a home. Young people in particular are struggling to actually build a life for themselves, being able to actually have some semblance of some kind of life, a future, where they can, again, own a home and that you possibly become. All right, everything's okay. There we are. Piers Morgan Uncensored. It's good with our driver's seat, and this is what Joe Kent had to say on Piers Morgan.
Well, Joe, he called you silly and... incompetent, I think, earlier. So this is your chance to respond.
So prior to this war, the Straits of Hormuz were transited by anybody trading oil for free. Post-war, the Iranians are going to be able to extract a fee. That's one of their negotiating chips they have now.
No, they won't.
Prior to the war, the Ayatollah that we killed was actually at the negotiating table with us. The reason why none of this was taken into account is because the Israelis didn't really care about what would happen to the Straits of Hormuz.
No,
they
didn't
care what would happen to our Gulf allies. Our Gulf allies right now still technically are with us, but the fact that we were unable to provide them with security guarantees lowers our status in the region, potentially could threaten the petrodollar in the region. And so right now we're in a weaker position because we listened to a foreign government that had a different strategic goal in mind than we did. So it's great that we got the ceasefire. We need to maintain that ceasefire, and we have to actually withhold things from the Israelis, which we can do. The Israelis do have a modern air force, but they rely on us for a lot of the logistics, the refueling, in order to be able to reach into
Right.
Iran. So we very much are in the driver's seat of what we
Well, that's not
provide
true,
the
Joe. That's
Israelis.
just obviously
And we
false because
can't-
we
and-
didn't help them with
No, it's
refueling in the
100%
12-day
true. They
war.
can't
That's
reach
false.
into. They
Joe
cannot
Kent
reach
is right. Joe Kent is 100% right. This guy, whoever this shill is wrong.
to Israel. I've actually been in the military, man. I've been part of these operations.
Then explain how they
can't
did the
reach-
12-day war without refueling.
We,
Right? If
we helped them
weren't
out.
participating
We
in the
helped them
offensive
out.
operations of the
Well,
12-day
we helped
war,
them
and
out
yet
a
they
good.
struck the hell out of
Well, we
Iran.
helped them out a good deal with logistics. They can't sustain operations without us. They wouldn't be able to continue to sustain operations all the way into Iran with
Yeah.
conventional military forces in any meaningful way without our support. We have to pull that back. We also have to pull back their ability to go on the offense outside of their borders because it's going to interfere with the peace that we're trying to achieve. Right now, we're paying for their defense, we're paying for the offense, and also in terms of our status in the region and our ability to keep commerce and oil flow going out of the Straits of Hormuz and the Middle East. All of that is being negatively affected by us listening to a foreign government. So we have to put Israel back in the junior partner role if we're going to accomplish our strategic
Why couldn't you
objectives.
persuade
Totally.
Pete Hegseth of any of this?
Oh, agreed. Pete
I
Hegseth
tried.
definitely
And
needs
so
to.
that, therefore,
And
I
he
had
didn't
to
agree
leave
with
the
you, and he has
government
better intelligence than you. You weren't privy to any of this stuff. Like, you just don't know. That's why you're now on the outside doing podcasts instead of inside the administration.
These people
trying
are
to shape
so
policy.
nasty, aren't they?
You don't
These
know.
people are so nasty. How nasty. And first of all, to commend Pete Hegseth, he's barely served any combat. I don't think he has served in combat. And also, he's an idiot. And that is what everybody around him says. He doesn't know anything about this war, doesn't know anything about what he's doing tactically. And quite honestly, he should be out there himself fighting this war. These are people who are Christian Zionists, and they're not real Christians, and they're not actual Catholics, and they're really just serving the Israeli people. They are foreign operatives. These are people who are completely bought off and paid for by a foreign government. And then you have these shills that are working for that same foreign government, probably paid rather nicely to put up these talking points. Unbelievable.
Well, I
You
did my
didn't
best to shape
persuade
it
him.
from the inside. Like, look, man, my letter of resignation has been out there. What's important right now is that we support President Trump in getting this peace deal and making sure it actually sticks.
Yeah, 100%. That guy really went after Joe Kent for that, but it's like, geez, he was right. You know, he was. So, when we look at this, we also have absolute bombshell. The Trump administration fired Kristi Noem, but secretly decided to keep her controversial $70 million luxury jet. Instead of scrapping it, they're handing it over to the senior officials and Melania Trump. Absolute elite corruption on full display. And again, if you understand why Kristi Noem is being fired
by the government,
if you understand why this is happening, it is because her husband just got caught sending like weird conversations, like fetish conversations, and he was wearing this like pair of like fake boobs or something, talking to this like OnlyFans kind of girl or whatever. Really weird stuff. And so just
the
strange
Trump
as fuck.
administration is moving forward with plans to retain and use a $70 million jet previously associated with.
Like, why do our politicians have a $70 million jet? Do you know how much money $70 million is? Have you really looked at it? Have you seen it? Have you studied it? Do you know what $70 million looks like? That's a lot of fucking money. And Kristi Noem had that for a private jet.
With former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, according to a report by the Wall Street Journal. The aircraft, which was originally leased during Noem's time leading
It's really disappointing, too, because I honestly liked Kristi Noem.
the Department of Homeland Security, is now expected to be formally purchased by the government. This decision comes despite earlier expectations among DHS officials that the plan to buy the jet would likely be scrapped following Noem's departure from the role. Kristi Noem was removed as Secretary of Homeland Security on March 5th.
Look at Kash Patel, total fraud. No reason that guy should ever have been selected to be the director of the FBI. Totally incompetent, totally owned and dominated by the Mossad and his wife, who is also Mossad. Look at this piece of filth. Not a true politician and should have never been put in charge of the FBI. And then Kristi Noem, obviously, you know, why would she really Why was she really put in that position of power for the director of Homeland Security? We don't know. The one thing we do know is that look at these people. They all seem to be rather prone to making some really stupid mistakes. $70 million private jet. Then you have Kash Patel and, the videos that were leaked on his emails. And we have all of these things. These people have no self-control, no ability to make right decisions. And so now you have a country that's corrupted.
After serving in the position for more than a year, her tenure had been marked by a series of controversies, particularly surrounding the administration's aggressive immigration enforcement policies. Following her dismissal, President Donald Trump announced that Noam would take on a new role as a special envoy for what has been described as the Shields of America, a newly formed military-focused coalition aimed at combating drug cartels and transnational criminal organizations. Now, attention has shifted back to the aircraft she used during her time at DHS. According to officials familiar with the matter, the jet will not be tied to Noam personally going forward. Instead, it will become part of the broader operational fleet available to senior members of the Trump administration.
Oh, that's great.
This includes cabinet
I'm glad
officials,
it's not going to
and
somebody who needs
notably,
it.
access will also be extended to the office of First Lady Melania Trump.
$70 million private jet Kristi Noem owned, now going to be basically scrapped and going to be given to
The
Melania
Trump administration is moving forward
It's great.
with
$70
plans
million private jet. How does that make you feel? $70 million. That's a lot of money for one private jet. But hey, we can't do daycare. We can't handle daycare. We can't fix that. We can't fix those problems. We can't do mass deportations. That's all canceled. So, breaking Spanish PM Pedro, he said, Netanyahu launches his harshest attack against Lebanon. His contempt for life and international law is intolerable. He is a criminal. The EU must suspend its association agreement with Israel. Yeah.
Por supuesto que vamos a poner todos los recursos del Estado al servicio de la gente para protegerles de una guerra, la de Irán, que no avala el gobierno de España.
It's that simple. It's that simple. Just to fight back, to say what you need to say. It's that simple to say the truth, to speak the truth. It's not hard. And sometimes the ones who are bold will be favored the most and rewarded the most. London is very angry right now. Londoners block roads around the Israeli embassy in protest against the attacks on Lebanon. Yeah, so everybody's protesting against Israel. See what happens when everybody just stands up and says what's right? Everybody just does the right thing. How quickly things get back in order. A little bit of law and order and everything can go right back into place very easily. But then you have the people like Mark Levin in these crazy statements. Gary Cardone, Grant Cardone's twin brother, had retweeted this. Shout out to him, like Gary Cardone.
Trust President Trump. I know his heart.
What do you think about this?
He wants to do the right thing. I know he has Lilliputians who are telling him to do something else. I know he has other advisors telling him to do something else. He's the most understanding, competent of the bunch, and he's the president of the United States.
He's the president of the United States.
He's just like he's so mad.
Very good. But I would say this enemy is still the enemy. They're still surviving. Their military may be destroyed, but the Communist Chinese will still help them. The Russians will still help them to rebuild. And so this thing's not over.
Who's watching this guy still, It's all the boomers
Then I'm a warmonger.
who don't understand this issue. Oh, yeah, you are a warmonger, Mark Levin.
It's that they're a warmonger. It's not that I'm an interventionist. They're an interventionist.
They're an interventionist.
So mad. So unpleasant. And Trump's like, yeah, listen to that guy. He's smart. Oh, boy. We're in some trouble, guys. We're in some deep, deep trouble. Emmanuel Macron... I have just spoken with the Lebanese President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. I expressed France's full solidarity in the face of the indiscriminate strikes carried out by Israel in Lebanon today, which resulted in a very high number of civilian casualties. We condemn these strikes in the strongest possible terms. They pose a direct threat to the sustainability of the ceasefire that has just been reached. Lebanon must be fully covered by it. I reiterated the need to preserve Lebanon's territorial integrity and France's determination to support the efforts of the Lebanese authorities to uphold the country's sovereignty and implement the Hezbollah disarmament plan. So Emmanuel Macron is actually fighting back, speaking out against it. It's so easy, right? If everybody were to just say what is true and had a little bit of bravery, look at what we could achieve. Breaking: Netanyahu launched his harshest attack on Lebanon today. The European Union must suspend its association agreement with Israel. Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez. So again, these are just some footage of the Strait of Hormuz and everything that's going down. Just because I don't want to get copyright, I'll cancel that music out. But that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Something very serious is unfolding in Ireland right now. Major anti-government protests have brought the entire country to a halt for a second successive day, with protesters vowing to escalate if the government doesn't meet their demands. Ireland is about to explode. So meanwhile, over on the other side of the Atlantic, again, in the Nordic countries, they are suffering as well, just as much as the United States when it comes to this the mass migration invasion, you could say. And this has been causing a lot of upheaval because there has been a lot of essentially just no accountability. You're having a lot of these foreign immigrants that are coming into these countries, particularly from these same countries of war right now, from the Middle East, and they're moving into countries like Ireland or Scotland or Germany, and they're committing all these crimes. And then what happens is they'll commit a rape or a stabbing, and nothing happens to them. They just get away with it. And so, that kind of pisses people off. And then it creates the riots. It creates all of this stuff, all of these events. So that's kind of why we have to pay attention to all of these things happening. Can't let it happen here in the United States. Got to stay ahead of it. Bitcoin, very easy to hack. So this is Jim Rickards. He worked for the CIA. He was also, this guy's kind of worked everywhere in finance, in government, and banking. So he's a rather important person to listen to, pretty well educated on finance, gold, pretty much all of it in general. So we'll listen to what he has to say. It's only 20 seconds here.
Very easy to hack, by the way. I just worked for the U.S. Special Operations Command when ISIS was using Bitcoin as one of their currencies. It's Bitcoin and gold. It was kind of interesting. They were at the two ends of the spectrum, but it's a lot easier forensically to hack than people realize. So I'll leave it at that. Very easy to hack, by the way.
Yeah, we've heard a lot more people have had their Bitcoin hacked than their XRP hacked or their Ethereum hacked or their Cardano hacked, their XLM hacked. A lot of people seem to not be liking Bitcoin so much anymore these days because honestly, what value does it have beside the fact that it is the biggest currency? It's a store of value, right? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they are the children of God. Amen. That is true. Definitely agree with that. Again, don't want to get copyright. Sorry about that. The revolt, the Christian is against the Jew. Yeah, the Knights Templar. Thought that was kind of cool. It is true. It's unfortunate. Didn't need to be this way. But it kind of did, right? Can't wait, Justin. Florida Governor candidate James Fishback to debate Representative Byron Donalds on Fox News July 21st in Tampa. We were rooting for James Fishback all day long. Love James Fishback. Got to show him some support. Be sure to give him a follow. Breaking: Iran accuses Germany of hypocrisy. On the other hand, German Chancellor says that Israel is doing a dirty job, and on the other hand, they support the same dirty job. This is extremely shameful. So again, that is from Iran and their government persecuting Germany. Breaking: U.S. Army Special Operations Command veteran is now facing federal charges for allegedly communicating and transmitting classified national defense information. Officials say the suspect, Courtney Williams, and has charged after allegedly providing sensitive info. And again, we also heard that this lady might have been Israeli too. Might have been some Israeli ties here. 254 killed. Wow. So 5 hours ago, it's been updated. This was the Israeli strike that took place on top of Lebanon. 254 killed, 1,165 injured in today's Israeli strikes across Lebanon. Preliminary civil defense toll. Dozens more feared, trapped under rubble, and rescue operations race against time. So this is like complete and total hell. And I don't know why the entire world isn't rising up against it. I am excited to listen, Israel needs to be completely annihilated in regards to their military capabilities at this point, because it's like, the only reason they have any of these military means is because of the United States. Again, without the United States, Israel would never be able to do any of this. And we're basically giving this crazy little brother a gun. And that crazy little brother is running around with the gun, shooting everybody. And, you just, at some point, you got that crazy little brother and you got the gun. You got to put that crazy little brother down. And that's kind of like what's happening with Israel. These people are causing terror upon the entire world. And nothing happens. No accountability. Instead, Pete Hegseth says, yes, that's Christian Zionism, baby. And it's like, no, these people need to be held accountable. Prison time. These are war crimes. And it violates the Geneva Convention, of which the Jewish people created in Nuremberg. Breaking a meeting between Cardinal Christophe Pierre and the Pentagon was described as a bitter lecture during which the U.S. official invoked the Avignon Papacy, a 14th century period when the French crown used military power to influence the papacy, as an implicit warning to the church. So, yeah, they're going to be using those threats against the Catholic Church, against the Vatican, because more war is a good thing. Trump needs to get rich, and, Trump coin needs to hit, those next levels. And then at the same time, we also got to see Dow Jones hit 50,000 points. Netanyahu threatens Iran. The enriched uranium will come out of Iran either by agreement or by the resumption of fighting. Aren't you sick of these people? Aren't you just sick of them? That comes from the Adam E Media.
Trump administration have said.
So again, we'll rewind this here. Look at this video.
For the enriched material, which still remains in Iran, and just like as senior officials in the Trump administration have said, this material, the enriched uranium, will completely come out of Iran, and it will be done either by agreement or by renewing the war.
Yeah, so it's like Netanyahu, I guess, just made that decision for everybody. And Trump is like, okay, more war with Iran. Netanyahu said so. Daddy said so. So we're going to get, Daddy said we need to continue fighting. So I'm Donald Trump and I'm going to bend over for whatever Netanyahu says because Daddy said so. Seriously, like, I can't believe it. Dan Bilzerian shuts down TMZ by telling them straight to their face that he is running for a congressional seat in Florida because Randy Fine has committed treason and puts Israel before the United States. And that is absolutely true. Randy Fine has put Israel before the United States. If you know anything about Randy Fine, he was also caught on video illegally voting for other congressmen. Unbelievable. And he's been a strong advocate of, basically, not allowing any more Muslims into the United States, which I'm not really opposed to, but at the same time, I would rather, not allow more of the Israelis into this country. That is the number one priority. So listen to this video. This is crazy.
You called your opponent
Dan Bilzerian just cooks here.
this fat Jew. So he's not from Israel, but you called a guy in Florida this fat Jew. How is that not anti-Semitic?
Well, he's a Jewish supremacist, and he puts Israel before America, and I think that, he should be tried for treason.
This fat Jew is anti-Semitic,
yes.
Dan.
I mean, that's what you say, but how about
that's
every single time
that's
that
what
he blasts
that's what
Muslims?
I know. I don't say
Well,
it. I know
he
it.
literally talks about how Muslims are lower than dogs. So is that
Fact.
Islamophobic?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And that wouldn't be, that's not appropriate for him to say either. If he had said that.
But he does all the time, and he tweets that. And he's
Yeah,
a
see,
senator.
you notice how TMZ says, if he had said that, then yeah, that's wrong. If he had said that, like he never said it, but they know that Dan Bilzerian said this. Like, don't you love the way the media spins a narrative?
No, I'm not anti-Semitic. I think that, that's kind of a made-up term. I think the Palestinians
Is it
are the
a
real
made-up
Semites.
term?
Yes, because if
Made
you
up
look
by-
at what a Semite
was
is,
Hitler
the
anti-Semitic?
What's
Here
that?
they go again with Hitler, bringing up the past of Hitler again. This is always what they resort to. And it's like, okay, what about the 20 million Europeans who died in World War II? Okay, what about the people in Gaza who are, dying of a Holocaust right now? What about the people in Lebanon that are dying of a Holocaust right now? I'm so sick of the media. It's like a constant university classroom conversation when you're watching the news. It's like you're dealing with the dumbest people who really don't understand the actual eschatological issues and all of these things that are actually going on.
Hitler anti-Semitic?
Like I said, it's the term is focused solely on Jews, but actual Semites are the Arabs, and Palestinians are Semites as well, and they actually have more DNA lineage to that region than any of the Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews that have taken it from them. So, I kind of have issue with that term and how it's been hijacked to only talk about Jews.
So if you want to call it anti-Jewish, then you can call it anti-Jewish.
Well, I'm not going to call this anti-Jewish. When you say that this fat Jew, you could take another race and
Okay, that's freedom of speech, brother. Like, that doesn't mean he's anti-Semitic or hates all Jews. That is like a completely different thing. That's called political rhetoric on social media.
you could use another epithet, but you're anti-Semitic, Dan.
I'm not. I have Jewish friends.
Oh, some of your best friends are Jewish?
I don't paint all Jews with one brush, but he paints all Muslims with one brush, and it's accepted. And for some reason in this country, it is okay to just blast Muslims, bash them. You look at what Bill Maher said about Muslims. I mean, it's this double standard, and I don't like the double standard. And I look at him as a Jewish supremacist. He believes that Jews are better than other people, and he puts Israel before America. And so I have huge problem with that.
So if you've got a black friend that you don't like, do you use the N-word on him?
No, I don't.
Well, then what's the difference when you use the word fat Jew for a Jew you don't like?
Because it's political rhetoric and there's no intent behind it. You have to think about the intent. What is the intent to the intent behind what Dan Bilzerian is often saying on X? He's bringing attention to a matter. It's kind of different than actual hate, and so that's kind of my take
Jew
on that.
the same as because that is not that's not one is a slur, right? And one is describing a religion. So you can't compare the two.
Really?
How can you compare those two?
These people just so aren't ready for the future of the freedom of speech, which is the fact that, hey, bad speech can be countered by better speech. Incorrect speech can be countered by correct speech. And it's very much that simple. A word is a word. The N-word is a word. Nigger is a word. It's a word. What's important is the context and the intent. What is your meaning behind your words? What is the meaning?
There's a way
the semantics.
You say it, Dan, that the intent is the same.
It's not the same at all.
So
one is a slur, one is a racial slur that I don't use, and the other one is describing an ethnicity.
You just used it.
But it's a word. It is a word. That is the issue here. It's a word. And when we're talking, listen, in a police report, we have to say the actual word. You say the word. You say what somebody said. Okay, you go on a call. You say, maybe somebody said something. They said, oh, yeah, this guy is a nigger. You would have to say that in the report. This man said this in the report. You'd have to report exactly what was said. And so it's like if we're talking, it's like people need to be able to speak and have a conversation.
Are we adults? Can we talk about a word? Was a
Seriously.
word so offensive that that it just you can't say it? We have to say
the answer to that is yes.
So I want to ask a question.
People are too sensitive.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Everybody is too sensitive. It's like the truth is the truth. Facts are facts, and facts do not care about your feelings. And again, bad speech can be countered by better speech. Incorrect speech can be countered by correct speech. And it's one of the most important things you need to remember. What's important about the First Amendment is that you can argue anything. It's just about how you argue it. The Pope just threw in the Bible at the Trump, calling the war in Iran unjust. He tells Americans to call Congress and demand Trump be impeached.
War, which,
so again, let's rewind this clip. Big clip.
In English, I would simply say, once again, what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence.
I agree with this.
War, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is
most of the world
to escalate, and which is not resolving anything. In fact, we have a worldwide economic crisis, energy crisis, situation in the Middle East of great instability, which is only provoking more
Yeah.
hatred throughout the world. So come back to the table. Let's talk. Let's look for solutions in a peaceful way. And let's remember, especially the innocent, children, the elderly, the sick, so many people who have already become or will become victims of this.
It shouldn't have to be said. The people in Gaza, the people in Lebanon, it's absolutely, it's disgusting. I cannot wait for the Crusades to happen. I cannot wait for there to be a real revolution. I'm excited for it because I'll be a part of it. Like, I'm sick of it. Like, no way. These people aren't going to come into my country and tell me how to live. I'm talking about the Israeli people. I'm not letting these people who have genocided, half of their own people that they were neighbors with since 1947, and then they come over here and tell me about the Holocaust when it's like 20 million Europeans died. It's like when my grandparents fought in that war. And it's like we're killing, our brothers were killing each other, Germans and Americans killing each other, Europeans killing each other. How many Christians died in World War II? I believe it was more than Jews. If you actually go back and look at that number, take another look. And it's like when you look at the way history has been completely manipulated for the specific purposes of what we are seeing today, it's absolutely obscene, unacceptable. Compare this to the sad buildings that we are at today. Yeah, totally. I said this as a real estate agent. Who's out there making some investments? Because let's work on this stuff. If you are out there watching this show, and if you love beautiful architecture like this, then work with me. I'll be your real estate agent because I'm looking to work with people who want to do these kind of projects. I'm looking to work with people who want to build beautiful architecture again because this is what we need to return to. Look at this. We could have it all. We could have all of this again. It's amazing. We could have it all again. Crazed homeless man accused of slaughtering Irina Zarutska on train found incompetent to stand trial. Look at that. How does that make you feel? Does that make your blood boil or what? Not trying to make everybody mad here, but it's like people need to be pissed. This is it's true. This is so unjust. This is what happens in a society when there's no law and order. Innocent women, white women on the subway who had no racism in their bones, no racism in their body. And all they did was choose to be kind enough to sit right in front of this black individual here, this black man. And because she was not racist and chose to sit right in front of this innocent, kind, doctor of a black man, she got stabbed in the neck violently. And, he said, I got that white girl. I got that white girl. And he said that twice. But, it's all good. He's a doctor. He's a scholar. And he's just incompetent to stand trial. No, actually, I think there needs to be public execution for any heinous crime like this. White, black, Asian, Jew, Gentile, I don't care who you are, what color you are. You commit an evil, heinous act like this. You stab an innocent person in the neck. You should be stabbed in your neck. And their family should be able to do it to you. The victim of the family that you did that to should be able to stab you in the neck. And I see that being the future. We need a future where we have an eye for an eye. And there needs to be a real future where people are held accountable for, again, the most heinous crimes. There needs to be there should be capital punishment. There should be the death penalty. And again, this isn't about race. This is about justice. This is about what is right and wrong. President Trump's meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte at the White House has just hit the 2-hour mark. I can only imagine how much Trump is laying into him. Scare him shitless 47. So everybody, it's like the pro-Trump rhetoric. It's like we need to not be in this war.
I tell you. First of all, because also the U.S. needs NATO. And the U.S. is not only in NATO to prevent a mistake after the First World War, not to re-engage with Europe. And then again, the long arm of history reaching out to the U.S. again in the Second World War, as Churchill famously said in his speech in 1941 in the U.S. Congress. They are also in NATO because for the U.S. to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need to secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are planning for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. So, hey, good luck. So when President
And so
Trump
that was what they had to say. Breaking, French President Emmanuel Macron has received 2 French citizens who returned to Paris after spending nearly 4 years detained in Iran espionage charges. Their release came as Iran responded to France's stance, which diverged from that of the United States regarding the conflict. So because Macron basically came out against the United States and honestly said the right thing. I mean, I'm on Macron's side. You know, he did the right thing. He said the right thing. We should be calling for, world peace. We should be on the Vatican side. We should be on the Pope's side. We should be calling for world peace, for further negotiations, further diplomacy versus bombs and killing each other. And that is really ultimately, that is the number one way of American diplomacy. The reason America is so great today is because we were masters of diplomacy, international foreign affairs, and international foreign policy. That is why America once was the greatest countries, because we were able to actually, be diplomatic. And instead of bombing all these different countries, we would have these extraordinary deal-making capabilities. But instead now, when you're completely compromised by nations like Israel, you just bomb other countries for Israel because, hey, you need that $250 from Maria Adelson. April 8th, 1093, the new Winchester Cathedral in England was dedicated to Bishop Walkland. Look at that. Look at this architecture. To behold. To behold. Absolutely amazing. We need to bring it back. Again, if you're looking to invest in real estate, you're looking to build real estate, then tell me, because I want to work with you on those projects. Breaking, according to Reuters, the U.S. has more than 50,000 troops deployed in the Middle East within the area of responsibility of Central Command, CENTCOM, and the number is still increasing. According to officials, the process of transferring thousands of Marines from San Diego to the region is currently ongoing. So we are sending troops to Iran. No matter what Trump said, they're already on their way to Iran. CENTCOM's confirmed that. And so the Chinooks are in the air, and we're sending the Warthogs. It's all going down. Less than 24 hours later, the U.S. began making changes to the agreement. J.D. Vance says, I think this comes from legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made the promise and never indicated that this was going to be the case. So now, again, you don't want to hold Israel accountable, so you're just going to pretend like, oh, yeah, well, Lebanon was never in that deal. It's like, okay, yeah, what's the real interest there? Does it happen to be for the Abraham Accords?
First of all, I actually think, and there's a lot of bad faith negotiation and a lot of bad faith, propaganda going on. I think this comes from a legitimate misunderstanding. I think the Iranians thought that the ceasefire included Lebanon, and it just didn't. We never made that promise. We never indicated that was going to be the case. What we said is that the ceasefire would be focused on Iran, and the ceasefire would be focused on America's allies, both Israel and the Gulf Arab states.
Our greatest allies. Who is sick of hearing our greatest allies? I cannot be the only one who is so tired of hearing about our greatest allies when they are our greatest enemy, the greatest sponsor of terrorists. The real greatest sponsor of terror on earth is Israel. And here we are supposed to be told that they are our greatest ally, and they are our 100% our greatest enemy. In 20 years, these people are going to be looked at like idiots, like complete and total fools. J.D. Vance's, the Donald Trumps who went along with all of this, their legacy is so destroyed.
And this must have come
absolute heartbreak on Al Jazeera. A brave resident exposes Israel's deliberate targeting of civilians. He breaks down after carrying a 3-year-old child with shrapnel in his hand. He confirms there was absolutely no military targets, just innocent families, pure evil. So again, we don't know if this is propaganda or not, but we have to consider all things, and let's listen to what he has to say about it.
I mean, there's nothing unusual going on here. They just targeted civilians. It's a residential building, elderly kids. I carried a 3-year-old injured kid, shrapnels in his head. It's just criminal.
Have you known anything like this in this neighborhood before?
No, not since the Civil War. Everything was nice and easy here. It's a very multicultural, multinational area. It's a touristic area. Just, your regular neighbors here.
Thank you, Hadi Basha, who just lives nearby. Thanks for talking to us. I've lost you in the earpiece, but this is the remains of one of many buildings hit here in Beirut today in these unexpected strikes. No sign of a ceasefire here.
Yeah, so the war goes on, and all of this is happening, and it doesn't seem to be any accountability. Alex Barnico update. Let's listen.
Through the Panama Canal. And the reason why is America is sending ships through. Some breaking news. Israel might have blown up a cargo ship that was sailing through the Panama Canal. And the reason why is America is sending ships through the Panama Canal because they can't send them through the Strait of Hormuz now. And reports are that Israel might be responsible for a ship that just got blown up in the Panama Canal because they don't want the world to forget about what's happening in Iran. But first, so this makes sense. A few moments ago, an oil tanker sailing through the Panama Canal blew up. Multiple people were injured in the explosion and one person is still missing. And a video has come out and it is absolutely insane. And from what we can tell, the Panama Canal has actually been closed temporarily because of this, because they fear that the same thing could happen to other ships. In other words, they think this was an attack. They said, quote, this closure is a preventative measure taken with the aim of ensuring the safety of other ships. Now, because this happened a few moments ago, we actually don't know whether this was an attack, an accident, etc. But almost immediately, people have come out and pointed fingers at the Israelis. Now, I want to make very clear, we have no evidence that Israel was behind this. It could have been an accident. But there are a lot of people with a lot of influence saying this. And so I am only right to tell you it. A lot of people are saying that it falls within Israel's interest to drag the world's attention away from the Panama Canal. The world is actually trying to find alternatives to using the Strait of Hormuz, and the Panama Canal is one of them. They can send ships through Asia because that's a quicker way to provide oil now. And so people are saying that Israel would want to shut that so that it stops that happening, so that they have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. I don't want to spread misinformation. I'm going to tell you the facts. An oil tanker has blown up as it was sailing through the Panama Canal. At the moment, we don't know who was behind it. We don't know if it was an attack or if it was an accident. That is the facts. So let's go with that. I'll also provide you some other possibilities. However, I want to provide you the facts because I'm factual. I mean, you can tell me what you think in the comments, so do that. But leave me a follow because I'm going to keep you updated on.
Yeah, so that's crazy. Essentially, Israel is making moves on everybody. And ultimately, what I think Israel is doing is they're trying to weaken every other country as much as they possibly can, so they, as they are getting bombed by Iran and as they are getting weakened, they are trying to weaken everybody else around them at the same time. It's kind of all they can do from a strategic military standpoint if they're talking about successfully executing on their operations of achieving the Greater Israel Project. The AI data centers are out, and we the people have spoken. So we're seeing this all over the country. People are really rejecting the data centers. Chaos on the streets. Nobody is liking the data centers. People are saying no. Imperial Valley residents run data center developer out of county meeting. This is what it's going to take if you want to secure your country. This is next. The city council meetings, this is what it's going to take, America. It's going to take you standing up and speaking out against these data centers and all of these things. This is going to be the big push of the future. This is going to be the big fight. They're going to really try to persuade the world to accept data centers and the merging of man with machine, which is already going to be inevitable. We know that. But they're going to do it in a way that is completely, just in the worst ways possible. They're going to do it in a way that destroys your entire hometown, wherever that is, your small little community, all that open land. They're going to just fill it with data centers. It's funny, I can see the cop in the background driving in this video. He's just like, fuck this. We'll just wait till it dies down. So yeah, they drove this guy out. Imperial Valley residents run data center developer out of county meeting. This is what it's going to take, though. No violence, but, you're protesting against it. You're giving your opinions. Ultimately, you honestly want to be even more subtle than that. But people are saying no to the data centers. And it's important. People are waking up. People want their country back. People are getting tired of the idea of paying taxes so that way we can put up these worthless data centers. It's like, how about no? How about we actually build stuff that we can all benefit from? The Pentagon summoned the Pope's ambassador, told him that the United States has the military power to do whatever it wants and warned that the church better take its side. They even invoked the Avignon Papacy, a dark chapter in history when a government used military force to bend the church to its will. So where exactly does this end? If the Pope refuses to fall in line, what's the next move? Bomb the Vatican? And again, that comes from former special ops guy and possible CIA Sean Ryan. Joe Kent, who is CIA, we know that to be a fact, was what's more important than to our nation, opening the Strait of Hormuz and bringing stability to the Gulf, or funding Israel's offensive in Lebanon. Israel is the junior party in this relationship, but won't act like it until we restrict military aid to them. Yeah, it's really that simple. No more money to AIPAC, no more money to the Israeli government, or else this happens. What happens when this becomes your home? What happens when this is your house, your hometown? Wherever it is, imagine that was your church. Imagine that was the school you grew up at. Imagine that was the hospital that your grandfather or your grandmother or your mother, your father was sleeping in, getting treatment in, and all gone. Boom. Innocent civilians, thanks to the Israelis. How easily could they do that to the United States is my question. I think rather easily. We saw 9/11. And so this is my point. We need to fight back against it. Interesting post by Adam Back. I'm not Satoshi, but I'm early. I was early in the laser focus on the positive societal implications of cryptography, online privacy, and electronic cash. Hence, my 1992 onwards active interest in applied research, eCash. Privacy tech on cypherpunks list with led to Hashcash and other ideas. So that had 2.2 million views. That came from Adam Back. Always interesting to see those tweets. PsyOp Anime came out with another pretty banger hit. And so this is what was released today. So it looks like a little Knights Templar clip. Thought it was kind of badass. So this is supposed to be the Arabs and the Muslims. Really, I would consider it should be like the Israelis, right? Because that's what the fight's really going to be. Because the Muslims and the Christians are going to unite against the Jews. That's what's really going to happen. Still a cool video, though. Love a little bit of anime. PsyOp anime. Oh, I love it. You gotta love some PsyOp anime. Follow that account for sure. Love it. Anyways, just gotta add the hype, right? Gotta add the hype. Gotta add the hype. Gotta add some excitement to World War III. We don't really have a way of getting out of it, right? So we gotta enjoy it. This is really entertaining. How to properly handle data centers at the town council. Check this guy out. This guy did an exceptional job.
What's your last name?
Everybody should be doing this in their local councils.
My last name is Jason We the People, and my address is 1776 Boulevard. What city? Freedom City.
This guy's crazy. This is so good.
Michigan. So I know you're making all that up. Yeah, 100%.
Fellow Michigander.
Because it's my Fourth Amendment right. You know what that is? According to our... you need to learn the Fifth Amendment right. I don't care about your article. According to Article 6, Clause 2, you're Trump. According to the rules of the city council, you have to give your name, your proper name and address, or you're not allowed to speak. So do you think your bylaws trump my constitutional rights? Because that's the way it's looking here. You think your little bylaws here trump all these people's constitutional rights. Remove me so I can sue the dog shit out of the city. Do it, because I'll make sure you don't get no data center. Try 42 USC 1983, baby. That's my middle name. You want that name too? Now, back to this Fifth Amendment.
They got quiet there.
You can't use no takings clause, Einstein. Guess what? That's for public use. You understand that? You know what public use is? Sure ain't a data center. It's a park, an old folks' home, something like that. It's the Fifth Amendment. It's really not that complicated.
Right.
You should look into it. By the way, how does it feel sitting up there being a Benedict Arnold to all your people out here? Not one person supports this. How about this?
Go off,
Everybody
brother.
up here's been asking who supports the data center. How about this? Who don't support the data center? Any other questions? Is there any other questions? Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder can see this one together. What remedy do you have for the forever chemicals? You don't got none. So now you're poisoning our land. Is there any foreign money involved in this? I'm pretty sure there is. Ain't Whitler in some hot water over there?
Nice.
Also, non-disclosure agreements. Bad news. I want everybody in this room who lives here to FOIA request every single non-disclosure agreement from any council member, mayor, anybody in this city. You need to FOIA who has one. You won't be able to see what's on it, but you'll be able to see who has one. And then at that time, we got a real conflict of interest, don't we? I think we would. Next thing, who are you having come in here that's putting these underground generators? Oh, you're not. You got these big old power lines going in right now that everybody's talking about. What's that? I mean, have we already made our minds up?
Everybody's got to do this.
Seems that way.
To their city council.
Well, anyway, here's your people. Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming. Everybody needs to. This is exactly the remedy to the data centers. You want to get rid of the data centers. You want to make sure that that doesn't happen. This is what you need to do. You need to go speak in your Congress.
Hello.
You need to go make sure these people don't feel so confident to rip up your land and replace it with, shit that doesn't matter, to sell out your country and your land. There needs to be real precautions for that. Those are fighting words. You should take that as a real threat. So the Iran embassy said, "Hey Trump, if you don't have a leash for the rabid dog Israel, should we get one for you?" Very interesting post there. Yeah, maybe the real regime change is happening maybe it's really happening in Israel. Maybe that's the real regime change going on. You're going to want to follow Trey if you haven't already. Again, Trey Yingst, he is the Fox News war correspondent. Video circulating online showing the aftermath of the heavy Israeli airstrikes in Beirut, Lebanon. Again, clip from Tim Dillon pretty well outlines everything that's going on with the greatest con in history. So let's listen to this. At least a little bit of it, because it's funny. And I love Tim Dillon.
So that we can fund the military, and we're going to have like
He's just saying what we all
military
thinking.
budget, which is the exact opposite of what they said they were going to do. And this administration of morality is led by a thrice married gambling tycoon, Kristi Noem, with her husband's fake tits, and then Kash Patel, who was like doing some like
I can't believe that really happened.
Like Afghan boy dance to please some warlord. I mean, I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what's going on over there, but AOC is going to waltz right in, and I'm going to pay 90% of my money. It just is what it is. I've accepted it. I've accepted it. AOC is going to show up to my house every month and put a gun right in my mouth and take all of my money. And that's okay, because I'm going to be in a turban, and I don't give a shit. I'm going to be walking around in a full burqa. That's where we're going. The White House seeks $1.5 trillion for defense in new budget request. I mean, again, they want to convert the country into a war economy. This is what this whole thing was about. It was about winning so that they could hand all these government contracts to Palantir and all of these other companies, and they could go and topple regimes all over the world and take their resources. And by the way, it's the last gasp of the American empire. This is it. This is the tipping point. We're being exposed a little bit in Iran. Iran's ability to hit our bases, I've said it before, but this has been shocking to people. I've spoken to smart people about this, and they're all pretty astounded at Iran's ability to fight back. Iran's been preparing for this for a very long time. And, we always see ourselves as a military powerhouse, and we are to a degree.
Iran has 90 million people. Iraq did not go that well for us. And you think about what that was like. You think about what Afghanistan was like. Now, imagine Iran. Iran is going to be allied with Afghanistan, probably Pakistan. And you think about that alliance. You think about Russia and China allying with Iran now. You think about the terrain of Iran, how most of their nuclear missile systems is underground, and how they're shooting most of these missiles from these tiny little, 5x5, 6x6 little holes in the ground, the desert floor. And then these villages are all in little valleys within Iran. And so this is where our troops are fighting, and we're sending them into a slaughterhouse.
But this has not gone well.
Right.
No one who is a serious person will tell you that this has gone well. It's exposed weaknesses in our intelligence, in our decision-making capability, in our overall military strategy with regard to Iran. This has exposed a lot of fault lines in the American empire's ability to maintain an empire, which
100%. And I couldn't agree more. And I mean, it sucks, but it's true. And it's because, when you go to war with countries, you go to war for self-defense. When you go to war, you're obviously going to expose yourself. You're going to expose your military. You're going to expose your information, all that intelligence, your movements, your patterns. All the satellites in China have been tracking every little movement that we've been doing. Just so, this is something that Trump administration has not thought about or, they don't care. But ultimately, all of these other countries they're studying us, they're observing, and we're losing, we're giving away our cards, right? We're showing our cards, and that leaves us revealed to, greater exploitations later. Stu Peters said, it's time to declare war against Israel. I 100% agree. It is time. It is time to declare war against the state of Israel, 100%.
From the tyrant Khamenei until all the way
Netanyahu,
to the
we targeted family members.
The besieged members.
Proudly
the
says
regime. We have killed thousands of their operatives, and we've managed to prove that we can hunt them down wherever they are. They have nowhere to hide. We've also targeted senior officials from the tyrant Khamenei until all the way to the family members of
all the way to the family members. Yeah, and so that's what we're dealing with. Iranian forces, the historic night has begun now. The missiles will rain down without stopping on Tel Aviv. Feast your eyes, Iran says. So again, this is Tel Aviv. So it's like their cluster munitions were 8 to 10 to, it's like a lot of different bombs at the same time are falling with these cluster munitions. Getting heavy and it's getting heated. Again, as we look at all of these other stories here, Trump on the Iran ceasefire, we are very close to a deal. And then I got a call from Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, saying, I think they're breaking the deal. Who's they? Iran? Israel? He doesn't say. His own Middle East dealmakers are calling to tell him the ceasefire is collapsing before the ink dried.
But tell them to look out their window and watch. And within 45 minutes, I gave the order to knock out the biggest bridge. I gave the order, knock out the biggest bridge in, I believe, the Middle East, but the biggest bridge in Iran.
He's so proud. Trump is such a wartime president.
You saw the bridge.
Syria has rejected Germany's plan to send over 700,000 refugees home. Yeah, and don't forget that this guy is this guy's Mossad right here. He's the same guy who's made some interesting threats against the United States and other countries. Syria has rejected Germany's plan to send over 700,000 refugees home. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Europe is just being completely dominated. Federal Reserve posted, the Federal Reserve invites public comment and proposal that would allow U.S. banks and credit unions to use intermediaries to transfer funds through the FedNow service. Definitely important. Again, breaking Al Jazeera, Mabashar correspondent Mohammed Samir Washa has been killed in Gaza following an Israeli drone strike on his car at Al Nabolsi roundabout west of Gaza City. Footage shared from the scene by drop site contributor Mohammed Ahmed shows the vehicle engulfed in flames, indicating a direct hit. Gaza's government media office condemned the killing, stating that the number of Palestinian journalists killed by Israel has risen to 262 since the start of the genocide in Gaza. The office called the international community to condemn the crimes of the occupation, deter it, and pursue it in international courts for its ongoing crimes. So this guy was just killed. So journalists are being killed in Tel Aviv in Israel for reporting the truth. More martyrdom, and Israel saying, no, you cannot reveal our ways to the world. Won't happen. Breaking, Pakistan exposes Israel's heinous and criminal attacks on Lebanon, which killed multiple innocent people. Lebanon is part of a ceasefire between Iran and the U.S., which achieved today by Pakistan and Israel, which is attempting to sabotage it.
The renewed escalation and hostilities are a matter of great concern. They threaten far more than infrastructure. They endanger civilian life and risk reversing the fragile political and security progress Lebanon had begun to make preceding the current crisis. In this context, allow me to make 4 points. First, Pakistan reiterates its full support for the sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of Lebanon. We condemn in the strongest terms Israel's continued military aggression in southern Lebanon, which has resulted in the death of more than 400 civilians, including at least 83 children and 42 women, and over 600,000 people displaced. Sweeping illegal evacuation orders across large parts of southern Lebanon have deepened civilian suffering. The large-scale destruction of civilian infrastructure and the blatant disregard for international humanitarian law must cease immediately. Second, the use of force must remain the exclusive prerogative of the Lebanese state through its legitimate institutions. In this regard, the Lebanese armed forces play a central role, and Pakistan supports efforts to strengthen their capacity and operational effectiveness. Pakistan welcomes the efforts of the government of Lebanon to restore stability and strengthen state authority, including the cabinet decision of 2nd March to reinforce national security structures. We also note Lebanon's de-escalation initiatives, including the 4-point plan advanced by its leadership to restore calm and stability. Third, Pakistan strongly condemns attacks on UN peacekeepers serving with UNIFIL, who have been injured in Israeli strikes. Peacekeepers operating under the UN flag carry out a vital mandate authorized by the Council.
So Israel has been basically killing negotiators for Pakistan and their key players.
Israeli military activities
who are trying to push
Lebanon,
forward this peace deal,
including the continued presence of forces and the establishment of positions inside Lebanese territory, are illegal and unacceptable. These Israeli actions, which are in contravention of international law, are also undermining the efforts of the government of Lebanon to ensure peace and stability in the country. We call for Israel's immediate, full, and unconditional withdrawal from all occupied Lebanese territories.
Yeah.
Sustainable calm requires the
But
full
they won't.
implementation
They
of
never will.
Security Council Resolution 1701 and unwavering respect for Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity along the Blue Line.
The only country who can control Israel is the United States. And that is the issue. When we have a president who has no willingness to fight against Israel and the evil genocide that they are pushing, then what chance do we really have as a country? It's like, we're the only country who can stand against Israel, technically. And because we're stronger than Israel, because we have more power than Israel. The only reason Israel has as much power as they do is because, again, the United States and Trump has placed Israel on the world stage. Yes, Israel has been lobbying and giving us money for a long time, really since the 40s. All of that's true, right? JFK, all of that. Very powerful lobby. But at the same time, you know, it only takes a little bit of a patriot to stand against a tyrannical government who wants to come over and completely subvert your religion, your country, your identity. All of these things need to be completely rejected. And instead of rejecting it, Trump is just embracing it.
We echo the Secretary General's deep concern regarding the regional military escalation since 28th February, which has gravely undermined the November 2024 cessation of hostilities agreement. The situation in Lebanon cannot be viewed in isolation from this broader escalation across the Middle East. Heightened confrontation and unjustified attacks on several brotherly countries, which Pakistan has condemned, have gravely aggravated regional security and stability. At this critical juncture, dialogue and diplomacy must prevail over confrontation. De-escalation, restraint, and renewed diplomatic engagement are urgently required to prevent further deterioration of the regional security environment. Only through sustained political dialogue and respect for international law can the region move towards stability and peace. To conclude, Mr. President.
100%. Yeah. There's no way around it otherwise. They're going crazy on us. This is a message and video I received from a friend in Lebanon. Hezbollah has seized its fire, but Israel continues the slaughter. France, Egypt, Pakistan, Iran, somebody needs to step in now. Right now, it's only been France who's fought against it. Crazy. Nick Fuentes stated 8 hours ago that the U.S. and Israel launched their war with Iran, seeking regime change and the total destruction of Iran's missile arsenal. 6 weeks later, the Iranian regime is intact. It maintains a stockpile of missiles and has seized control over Hormuz. Trump surrendered, and Iran won. I would agree. Netanyahu rejects President Trump's ceasefire and says the war will continue against Iran at any time he chooses. Netanyahu says he will achieve his objectives through further military action under his command. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our finger is on the trigger.
And Israel is stronger than ever. This is the bottom line of this campaign up until now. Let me say, there are still additional objectives for us to achieve, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by resumption of the fighting.
Yeah, and we watched this video already. Just wanted to make sure we actually covered it. White House's Levitt, Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz. So again, that was 7 hours ago, right before Israel completely destroyed all of that and continued to bomb Lebanon and basically ended the entire ceasefire. And conveniently for the Trump administration and J.D. Vance, they didn't have to do anything about it. They didn't have to reject it. They just said, hey, Israel said that it's not a part of the ceasefire, so we're going to agree with that.
Iran could no longer tolerate being bombed or taking the gamble of
this was 7
to
hours
come
ago.
Following President Trump's 8 p.m. deadline last night. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, and as the president said, we have received a proposal from the Iranians that has been determined to be a workable basis on which to negotiate.
And then Israel ruined it and bombed Lebanon and crushed the entire deal. An Iraqi oil tanker was just allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. What are your thoughts on this?
An Iraqi oil tanker, the Ocean Thunder, successfully navigated the strait, carrying over 1 million barrels of Basra heavy crude oil. But only an hour after this, America has actually threatened to invade Iraq. I'm not joking. But so that makes sense,
Crazy.
you need to know the reason
so now
why.
we're going back into Iraq. We were already in Iraq, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, with George W. Bush fighting the terrorists. And now we're stuck back in Iraq again.
Iraq has been allowed to pass through the straits now. The militant groups within Iraq have actually been supporting Iran throughout this war, attacking things like the American embassies. And we believe that this is the reason why an Iraqi oil tanker has been allowed to pass through, now that the government of Iraq seems to be allowing these groups to get away with it. And so today, the US came out and said, quote, "We will not hesitate to defend our personnel and our facilities if the Iraqi government fails to meet its obligations." In other words, if the Iraqi government doesn't do as they're told by the US will invade. And by Iran allowing an Iraqi oil tanker now to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, it suggests the Iraqi government is actually starting to work with Iran now. But because another oil tanker has now passed through the Strait of Hormuz, the chance of the straits being opened and back to normal by the end of this month has now risen on Polymarket to 17%. Polymarket is a place where you can predict world events. And so the chance is growing, and more oil tankers and cargo ships are passing through, which suggests that the straits will reopen soon enough. A lot of countries have been given access to it now, so it seems it's just the West here that's missing out. But
yeah, now Iran has also said that if any ships coming through are to pay like $2 million and then some kind of payment in Bitcoin also.
Keep up to date on this, because if Iraq has been allowed through, it suggests they're working with Iran, and the US has now threatened to invade Iraq again. So leave me a follow, because I'm going to keep you up to date on this, because...
Crazy. Iranian state media reports the passage of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz has been stopped after Israel strikes in Lebanon.
Of oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz after Israeli attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon. Earlier today, we know 2 vessels were able to go through this passageway. But again, state media is reporting that the Iranians are choking off the strait. I just got off the phone with a senior Israeli official who was sounding the alarm about this action by the Iranians, saying only just a few hours into this ceasefire, the Iranians are already showing that they are trying to leverage their control over the strait and put pressure on global energy trade. And it also comes after reports overnight indicate...
Well, I mean, it is like their coastline.
...that an Iranian attack hit Saudi Arabia's east-to-west oil pipeline, and there was significant damage that was currently being assessed. This is important because this pipeline is the only outlet for Saudi crude exports. And as the Iranians are putting pressure on the strait, they once again are trying to leverage this ability to put pressure on global energy exports. It comes after we got a new statement from President Trump this morning about Iran's nuclear program. The president on Truth Social said the United States will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what they will be a very productive regime change. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and the United States will, working with Iran, dig up and remove all of the deeply buried nuclear dust. The president referring to Iran's enriched uranium there. And again, a lot of moving parts with this agreement that is very new. We saw overnight new strikes against Iranian oil infrastructure on Lebanon Island. This is just off.
Yeah, so this war is not ending anytime soon.
The coast of Iran. A refinery there was reportedly hit in early morning attacks. We don't know which country is responsible for the strikes, but we do know it comes after the Iranians.
You don't know. I'm sure it was Israel.
The ceasefire, hours after President Trump announced it, launching missiles and drones at regional countries and U.S. ally Israel. Here's what it looked like in the skies of Tel Aviv just 2 hours after the ceasefire went into effect.
Good. Sorry, but it's justified.
What you just saw there was
total innocents that have been annihilated by Israel.
Those bomblets raining down on Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv. This came after the ceasefire was announced by President Trump and an indication that it will take time to get this agreement in place. We're looking at a number of different fronts here, and the Israelis are preparing for the possibility of more incoming fire. But I do want to bring up this post by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu overnight, who agreed with President Trump about this ceasefire with Iran. The Prime Minister said in part, quote, Israel also supports the U.S. effort to ensure that Iran no longer poses a nuclear, missile, and terror threat to America, Israel, Iran's Arab neighbors, and the world. The 2-week ceasefire
of course they do.
Does not include Lebanon. Now, we heard from the president through reports earlier today who agreed with the prime minister. Hezbollah and Israel are...
Israel just wants more and more and more and more and more and more war. That's what it really is all about. And then the Greater Israel Project. Don't forget the main key element of this entire op.
Are expected to exchange blows. What you are looking at here is the Iranian capital of Tehran. Early this morning, pro-regime demonstrators took to the streets. They chanted death to America and death to Israel. They were chanting victory and burning American flags. It gives you a sense of the regime.
See right there, that's supposed to trigger you when they say that. They're burning American flags and shouting death to America. But why are they shouting that? Well, it's because we bombed their schools of innocent kids with Israel first. We bombed them first before they bombed us. And we're telling all these lies. We say that we're going to end the Iranian civilization as a whole, their entire people. Trump said that. I mean, come on.
Report that still exists in the Iranian capital.
Of course, Iran's not going to be too happy. Of course, they're going to say death to America. Of course, Iran is going to say the things that they're saying right now. You know, logically and reasonably, you know, we would be acting the same way if, let's say, maybe a country like Israel was doing this to us. Oh, wait, they basically are.
Lebanese capital of Beirut. We may even have some live images for you here. Smoke was rising from the horizon of southern Beirut, the Dakhia neighborhood, earlier today. While the ceasefire is in place between Israel, the United States, and Iran, the Israelis launched what they are calling the largest round of strikes since their operation began. More than 100 different targets hit across Lebanon. There are first responders there on the scene. These are...
They feel, you know, Israel feels so strong because they can bomb the innocent, you know, and they say that they say they're bombing Hezbollah. Okay, yeah, right. You know, Israel is trying, what they want is Lebanon for a national security front to guard the state of Israel, right? So they want to use Lebanon very similarly to the way the United States wants to use Greenland. They want to use Lebanon as this arm, this national security arm, essentially, and that's really what it is for. So like the same way the United States and Trump, we want Greenland for a national security arm, kind of like a little way for us to have that kind of reach over the Arctic, over the North Sea, over all of that. Then basically, you know, having that arm allows us to do that. And so that's kind of the same thinking with Israel and annexing Lebanon the way that they're doing it. You know, killing innocent people is easy for them. They don't mind that. And so they're going to do that to the Christians and, you know, get rid of their homes the same way they did to Gaza. And this is what they've been bred to do since birth.
Live images from the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Remember, this is the Dakhia neighborhood of southern Beirut, a Hezbollah stronghold. Officials there in Beirut say dozens of people were wounded, many killed in these strikes that took place. And the Iranians, once again, through state media, are threatening direct retaliation against Israel for this strike against their largest proxy in the region. Harris?
Oh, boy, I got to tell you, this is the least ceasefire-like ceasefire I think that anybody might have anticipated. Iran certainly doesn't see it that way, obviously. Look, you had some breaking news, and I want to push in on it. Was it overnight, you said, that Saudi Arabia's east-west oil pipeline, very critical movement of oil there, was hit by Iran? Was that before or after the ceasefire?
We don't know the exact timing of that strike, but it's very significant because this is the main pipeline that Saudi Arabia uses to move oil. And when the Strait of Hormuz is choked off, it's the only pipeline that they're able to use to get those exports out to the world. Something important here that we should note, it wasn't just Israel that came under attack after the ceasefire went into effect. This morning, there were dozens of drones launched at Kuwait from Iranian territory. The United Arab Emirates also came under an Iranian missile attack. There were reports of missiles toward Bahrain and Qatar. So as this is taking place, the Iranians don't appear very serious about this ceasefire agreement. The president has offered them a good faith opportunity, a window of 2 weeks to reach a broader agreement. And we heard from the president before about Iran's nuclear program. I spoke with Israeli officials earlier today. They said despite these attacks on energy infrastructure across the region, the #1 priority for the Israeli military echelon and government is the enriched uranium. They understand that the Iranians were pursuing a nuclear weapon before, and they say that if that...
In their words,
enriched uranium
since 1967, Israel has been saying that Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon. In Israel's words, since 1967, they've been saying that.
Country that in the future, Iran could be the new North Korea. Harris?
Wow.
Yeah, that's BS. That's not true.
Harris,
Israel is the greatest threat to all of that. Again, when we're looking at all of this, these are just some more footage. These are just some more images and videos, different angles of that big event that happened right after this ceasefire was initiated by Trump and Iran. Waiting for these images to load here, but these are just a few additional images to that event. Very crazy, very scary stuff. Got to get out of this war. It's in America's best interest to not be in this war. It's in America's best interest to sit this one out. Again, we saw this already. Starting to glitch out a little bit. And then we'll look at some breaking news. We'll see what's new here. Any kind of breaking news that went live while we were live. Let's see. Let's see what's new in the X algorithm. Let's see what's new. Ultimately, what do you think about the Iran war? What do you think about everything going on? What do you think about Trump and the ceasefire? Do you think we're going to end up going to war with Iran for a longer period? Do you think we'll, like maybe 6 months out, do you think we'll still be fighting Iran, or do you think we're to be getting out of this war? Where do you think things are heading? Largest bank in America just built a crypto on-ramp for 75 million people. EU blocks charter fuel and Spain. Spain tried to slash fuel VAT from 21% to 10% to ease the crisis. Brussels said no, the EU rules forbid it. Fines could follow. Italy has announced that it will join South Africa's case against Israel and charges of genocide before the International Criminal Court. Good. Good. So Rome is rising. Yeah. Leaders, it's nice when you got leaders who actually have some backbone. Little itty bitty female, and she's out here doing this work. You know, where's Trump at? You got this little 5'4", whatever, Italian, and then you got Trump who could be doing the same thing. She's willing to stand against Israel. What's Trump's excuse? A Biden-appointed federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from allowing temporary protected status for thousands of Ethiopians to expire. Trump didn't even end it. He was just letting the TPS granted by Biden to expire. SCOTUS meant to intervene ASAP. This is beyond insane. They have no business being in our country. Yeah, I mean, like, you're coming from a third world country and you're not here legally. You need to be ready to get deported. You're going to be deported. And, honestly, it sucks. I'm sorry, but it's just not okay. You can't be squatting. That's like living in somebody else's house and just expecting, you never have to pay rent there or anything. You just get to live there and, happy-go-lucky, no consequences. Brooks behind the borders. Iran would be far better ally for the United States than Israel. Iran produces oil, technology, and food. Israel produces nothing. Yeah, it's kind of true. Well, Israel controls the AI. So Israel does control tech. Israel does control a lot of the artificial intelligence that's in our military, in our law enforcement stuff, which is scary. That's something, but that is something to think about. That's kind of where Israel thrives, is in artificial intelligence. In intelligence in general. When it comes to intelligence ops, you can call it many different things. So it looks like we're kind of coming back into some of these bigger stories, some of the bigger headlines. Again, what do you guys think about all of the breaking news that's been coming out today? What do you guys think about April 8th, 2026? I think there's, again, 1 hour ago, President Trump lashed out at NATO following his lengthy meeting. That was big. Modern IDE for producers, builders, terminal editor, and preview browser in one app. Gotta love the AI that's coming out. Here we are. President Trump just lashed out at NATO following his lengthy meeting with NATO Security General Mark Rutte. In retaliation, President Trump might be going after Greenland. NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice? Yeah. So we're going to see what happens with all of that. I think Trump will eventually take Greenland. I'm all down for it. I think we should. Breaking news, Israel just broke the ceasefire, sending over 100 airstrikes in 10 minutes. What do you think about this? Yep, pretty big things happening. Pretty big things. So we're going to be covering a lot of these stories tomorrow. This is the breaking news, and we've covered a lot of this already. Looks like we're starting to see recycled stories in the X algorithm. The artist known Jess has his piece of wisdom out, so be sure to watch that. He released that 50 minutes ago. Just invasion of Lebanon by Israel. They are bombing Lebanon every day. They literally told everybody living in the bottom one-fourth half of the country to evacuate. So look at this video. Let's look at this clip.
We were seeking a ceasefire. We were trying to chill and relax. But now you've done it. Now you've done it. Israel's been bombing Lebanon they're bombing Lebanon all the time, and they're bombing them so much in the past 2 weeks. And literally earlier this week, they told everybody living in the bottom quarter half of the country to evacuate. Finally, Hezbollah retaliates. And now Israel says, well, we've been left with no choice. Yeah. We were seeking a ceasefire. We were trying to chill and relax. But now you've done it. Now you've done it.
Every time.
Israel's been bombing Lebanon hundreds of times since the Operation Epic Fury began. And they're bombing the capital city, which is like a modern city. It's the Paris of the Middle East. They're bombing the capital city. They're bombing southern Lebanon all the time. They're telling practically millions of people that they have to flee, telling everybody in the bottom fourth, the bottom quarter of the country, the southern quarter, to evacuate. And they say they were getting ready to make a ceasefire. And that's when Hezbollah attacked. That's when Hezbollah forced them into a self-defense situation. So now they say they're going to invade. They say they have the blessing of the White House and they're going to invade.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's exactly what's being done. And again, what Nick Fuentes was talking about there was how Israel is just bombing Lebanon again and again and again and again and again. And as soon as Hezbollah wants to fight back, suddenly Hezbollah's the bad guys because they want to fight back after getting bombed hundreds of times for months on end. Ethan Levins tweeted, Israel caused this, Israel did this. I can't get over my students' voice today. It still echoes in my mind, carrying what young students are going through, what we are all going through. Imagine that is some kind of sad video. We're going to try to focus on the facts, the information, run out of time here. Christian Zionist pastor John Haig tells his church to immediately prepare to the return of Jesus Christ, who will rule for 1,000 years from Jerusalem. See, this is the insanity of Christianity versus the proper Christianity, which is Catholicism. This is the issue with the Zionist Christians. These people are completely misled. They really do believe that, the fundamental root of Christianity is in Judaism, so they believe that the state of Israel must be blessed by Christians. These people are insane. Boomers, old people, they know nothing. They don't know how to interpret a book for their life. They said the planet's burning, but what if not? Dr. Stephen Coren says the Earth was warmed. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's all climate change crap. Matt Gaetz, let's hope Bibi doesn't start anything. The Vatican is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon. You're looking at the wrong strait. Taiwan. Yeah, so we're kind of starting to hit the circulating stories that we started with. So what do you guys think about all of the stories? We're going to wrap it up there. Honestly, I think we're going to be in Iran for a much longer time than what we are seeing now, and it's going to keep ramping up. It's going to be even more heated, and we can expect it to go even hotter. So we'll see what happens, but without further ado, we'll see you next week, Monday, with new updates on everything that's going on, or Thursday. And again, we're going to be back Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So see you next time, and enjoy this night. Be careful, stay prudent, stay powerful, and stay wealthy.